Cheers! Welcome to this week's edition of Power Playing, Watching, Reading, and use that hashtag PWR to get involved in this conversation. Hey, I'm Boss Bomb Maude. You know this one. This is Alicia Malone.
Hello.
So we thought we'd do Power, what we've been doing sort of the last couple of weeks, and chat in depth about what we've been playing, watching, and reading. And we definitely encourage you to do the same, not only in the comments below, but in social media.
Yay.
Because I got the power.
I'm in the shower.
So let's kick things off with P, and we've kind of both established just before starting this that playing hasn't been something that we've been doing.
No, I usually play Tetris, as you know, but I haven't even been doing that. And I definitely haven't been playing any other video games.
No.
And you've been playing video games, the same one, right?
Alicia, every time I think I finished it, it's just, I'm not even close. But let's talk more about watching, and this is why I wanted to do Power for this week, because last week I was at Fantastic Fest. Now, Alicia, you have done Fantastic Fest the last, how many years?
Three years. I was so jealous because I didn't get to go this time, sadly, so I was living vicariously through you. But it's such a fun film festival. It's a genre film festival, so they focus on action, sci-fi, and
Indies.
horror. Yeah, a lot of indies there, and it's just so much fun, isn't it? So many great parties, so many great people hanging out.
I remember last year when you came back and you were like, Maude, you don't understand. Fantastic Fest is just drinking and eating fried food. And I was like, that sounds so good.
And the Alamo Draft House where they deliver it to your seat.
Yes.
Which is amazing. And I love Austin, such a great city.
Yeah, it was my first time there. So, Fantastic Fest, I was there for 5 nights with the Source-Fed Nerd crew. We were sponsors of the bumper competition. Now, did you see the little bumpers that people would make leading into the films?
Oh, yeah.
So Source-Fed Nerd was a sponsor of that this year, which is really cool. But it also meant that we got to see a lot of movies. Now, it's not at all a secret that I don't like horror movies.
Yeah.
And being a genre film festival, there were
a lot of
a number. And it got to the point where my team were like, are you going to watch movies here? And I was like, yes. But I did. I bloody well did. And I want to talk about some of the films that I was watching. And I would check in with you to see if you've seen them. And most of them you'd seen at Cannes Film Festival or Toronto anyway. So we thought we'd do a mini review of the top movies that we watched. Kicking things off with the movie of this year's Fantastic Fest, The Lobster.
Yes.
In short, The Lobster is a very, very interesting take on another, is it a dystopian society?
Yeah.
Where
it's a future world where if you're not in a relationship, you get turned into an animal.
And if you are single, then you get sent to this hotel and you have 45 days to find a life mate.
Yeah.
And if you cannot in that time, then you submit what animal you want to be turned into, and then that happens. The humour was incredibly dry. It was very cynical, quite dark at times as well. But it stars Colin Farrell, who's, he put on a lot of weight.
He had a dad bod.
Yeah, certainly did. He was kind of frumpy. And he was like, I've got to find someone that I like.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this dog there, this beautiful border collie kind of dog. So who's that? It's my brother. It's like, Jesus.
He didn't find a mate. Yeah, I loved this movie. This was one of my favourite films that I saw at the Cannes Film Festival because it's got such great humour that really appeals to me. This really quirky, very dry, like you said. But the way that the concept is delivered throughout the whole film from start to finish, I mean, it's backed up, you know. People are all on board and you believe it and you don't know where the story's going. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who is a Greek filmmaker. He also did Dogtooth, which is another great film to check out if you like The Lobster and you like these kind of weird, like, high concepts. I like what it's saying about society, how if you're not in a relationship, you're looked down on.
You're worthless.
As being like something's wrong with you and often outcast. So I really like that.
The thing is, when they would talk, it would be very matter of fact. And so, in a way, you really didn't get a sense of anyone at all. So it'd be like, Alicia, I have a glass of red wine. I see that you do too. It means that we both like red wine. We have something in common.
But then that makes selling the absurd comedy so much better because they're saying these crazy things.
One, Alicia. It was delicious.
But they're saying things like, yes, no, I would like to be a lobster because then lobsters live for this long and they're like, yes, excellent choice being a lobster. Most humans choose to be dogs. we've got too many dogs in the world. I like the way they sell everything with that straight face.
There were laugh out loud moments as well,
because
which
it's
was
such
fun.
it's such a juxtaposition of the absurd comedy and then the very straight face.
Another movie that I half saw, was The Green Room, and it was another. It's a what do they call it? It's a heist. No, it's a what is that?
Well, it's a siege film.
That's it. Yeah. So it stars. What's cool is it stars Patrick Stewart, who is like the head of this like white supremacy kind of group that run a venue, and there's obviously a lot of dirty work happening. So for me, it followed the tale, the story of this band, and they were playing at this venue, kind of, was it in Oregon or something?
Yeah,
kind
it was in the middle
sticks.
of nowhere.
And they do their set, and it's like rah 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 rah, and then they go to leave, and someone left their phone in the band room, so he goes back in to retrieve it, and there's a dead woman on the ground with a knife through her temple, and then they realise that they're fucked. And it's literally from there, it's the baddies trying to kill this band using knives, using fight dogs. Dogs. You know those dogs? My mum, she loves dogs. But I realised, I think the first scene, the violence is not gratuitous in a way, but it was very well done.
Very gory.
And it told the point. So I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler. But for me, he had a gun, and they were trying to get the gun off him, and he was passing it through the door, and they grabbed his arm out, and you just hear him scream, 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 scream. And he brings his arm back in, and there's just slices all down it. And then here, they've nearly hacked his hand off completely. As soon as I saw that, the cold ran down my face, and I was like, this is not what I signed up for. Oh gosh. And I just kind of like hid under my jacket the entire time. And of course, the only time I looked back up again, some guy was getting unzipped with a box knife. And I was just like, oh god,
I know. I saw this at Toronto Film Festival, and it was a midnight screening.
Oh.
And it's so fun. Sir Patrick Stewart, well, it was fun to be at that screening. Because, as Sir Patrick Stewart said to me in the interview the next day, he'd never heard a crowd that rowdy ever in any of his movies, because people were going crazy.
I shrieked
but in the right way.
at one stage.
And that made it really fun to watch. And because I don't usually like horror, that made it easier for me to distance myself
But it is a horror, right?
Yeah, it's a horror.
Because it's not like, this... You think horror, supernatural,
thriller, siege. It reminds me of Straw Dogs, which was a great film in the 70s with Dustin Hoffman, which is that same really uncomfortable moments. Yeah. Not necessarily horror, but horrific.
Yeah.
It's directed by Jeremy Saulnier, this Green Room, and he did a great film called Blue Ruin. So if you liked Green Room, you should watch Blue Ruin.
I heard about that one.
A revenge thriller, which I saw at Cannes a few years ago.
And I heard that next movie he's going to stick with the colour themes, and it's going to be Red Fury.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool? That would be awesome.
But my favourite movie of the entire festival, I mean, one of them I was telling you about was Tale of Tales, which starred Salma Hayek as this queen, and it was 3...
Matteo Garrone.
Very, very high fantasy tales that were very unpredictable and just didn't really follow like the Disney formula for what a fairy tale was. I loved it.
It's so bizarre. I liked it. I didn't love it. But I saw it in Cannes, and it was the first film I saw at the Cannes Film Festival, and I was like, this is crazy, this is weird, but this is very much what Cannes is about.
Right.
Kind of strange foreign films.
See, I left that being very startled and a little bit disturbed, but I was like, that was cool. But the movie that picked that off and took first place for me was called Zoom. Now, this is one that Alicia hasn't watched, but I've told her about it, and it follows 3 storylines. A storyline of this girl working at a sex doll shop who was writing a comic strip, and then you actually see that comic strip being played out by Gael Garcia Bernal. As in a comic, in an animation, and he's a director who's trying to direct this film about this model who's a writer. Now, this model just happens to be writing a book about a girl that works in a set. You know what I mean? Like, every one of these storylines is responsible for the next storyline, and it's 3 stories that work so succinctly together, and it was just wonderful. It was such a great movie. I was just eating it up. I did a Q&A at the end, and I asked like 4 questions, and they're like, you again? So that's my one to keep an eye out on. So this is Power, but this is Power. So let's move on to reading, which is the last one. Alicia Malone, you said you've been reading a lot.
I have. I've been reading a ton of books. I recently just finished The Martian in time to see the movie.
Cool.
Yeah. And it is so much fun to read. It's hard to get into at first because it's a lot of science and a lot of maths. They're talking about stripping hydrogen from oxygen. And
right, which I only discovered today was not splitting an atom because they are individually atoms that make up like a molecule.
Yeah.
Fucking science.
Exactly, but that's the thing in the book and in the movie. He says he's going to science the shit out of it, and it makes science and maths cool because it's the nerdy guy that wins, the astronaut. I mean, if he didn't have his brain, he would not survive on Mars.
Right.
Perfectly cast in the movie by Matt Damon. Because he has that likability about him, but the book is so easy to read because you are really cheering for this guy. You just want him to win, and when it cuts back and forth between NASA and Mars, it's so funny and it's also really thrilling. I stayed up till like 3 a.m. one night just to finish it because I was like, I can't put this down.
That's
I
cool.
love when you find a book like that.
Have you watched it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you say to all those people that are like, Matt Damon was in Interstellar, is this literally Interstellar 2.0?
No, I say it's completely different to Interstellar. I mean, in Interstellar, he was the bad astronaut. This one, he's the good astronaut, but you don't even think of Interstellar when you watch this. It doesn't even feel like Gravity either. It feels like more like Castaway, but with more people involved. It's not just him by himself the whole time. But very funny, and it's great that Sir Ridley Scott is finally back with a good film.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, so watch that and read the book. And I like reading a book before I watch a movie.
Would you say the book did a better job or the movie?
I think the book was better, but the movie did really well. And
100 mil box office opening.
Yeah, I mean, it did well with the story, and it changed a few things from the book, but for the better for the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Not enough to make you huff in the cinema going, oh, is anyone?
No, because I was waiting for certain things that didn't happen, but that's alright.
Okay. All right.
What are you reading?
I just finished Lords of the Sith.
Star Wars?
Watch Alicia not give a shit. Okay, cool. So let me tell you about Lords of the Sith, Alicia.
Okay.
It follows Darth Vader and the Emperor straight after Vader was turned. So obviously, remember the end of Revenge of the Sith where he loses Padme, and so he's gone completely to the dark side, and the Emperor is there to be his master and show him the ways of the dark side of the Force. But you get a glimpse into what their relationship is like, and it's also telling the tale of these Twi'leks that are trying to start a revolution. They're trying to revolt against the Empire, so they're starting the rebellion. And you realise like the funds and the manpower going into trying to take on two people, and they can't. And you just see how strong these two people are, and just how kind of. But then they're also having these mind games with each other, and it's the Emperor is so shifty.
And is this canon?
Yes, this is legit. This happened in the fictional universe.
In the Wars of the Stars.
Creating, yeah. This is the first Star Wars book that I've read on an audiobook, and I didn't mind it. The great parts were listening to the lightsaber ignite, and you listen to the respiratory of Darth Vader, exactly, and you heard like blaster fires going, and you also would hear, the music, exactly, and you would hear, different parts of the music to support what was happening in the book.
That's cool.
For the tone, and I really liked that. But it was the one guy, I forget his name, he did say it at the end, so I apologise. But, he was being Darth Vader and the Emperor and the narrator and the female characters. He was all of them, which is how it goes. Otherwise it ends up being some sort of...
Does he do different voices for each?
Yeah, he does. And it was cool. Hey, what's happening now? Well,
I can imagine you recording an audiobook.
Yeah.
All the voices.
In comparison to the other Star Wars books, it was actually pretty good. It had some slow moments again, as I've found often happen because it's like they've given permission to tell this much of a story and they need to do it in that capacity. So
Yeah.
it's like blah, 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 But I think I may do a full-blown review on that later so I can go into depth without you glazing over. So that's it for this week's Power. Alicia, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on...
Right there!
Oh God, give me a fright. On Twitter, Alicia Malone. All my YouTube movies are my jam. All right here, apparently.
And guys, I'll hopefully be playing a lot more video games. I'm still playing Witcher slowly but surely. I hit a few tough spots in the game.
Did you rage quit?
Yeah, I did. I did. This one guy just stop throwing down these fucking elementals and just want to get down. It's too hard and I don't... I'll get there though, you know, have faith in me. But Superhero Roundup's coming back and we're doing show reviews for Arrow, The Flash and iZombie this weekend, which is happening. We're going to do it from New York, so hopefully this video will be up in time for that. But that's it from me. You know what happens. This is Geek Bomb and the bomb has been dropped.